You probably think of yourself as a single, unified being, right? Like you wake up, you go to the bathroom, you look in the mirror, and you just think, yeah, that's me. I'm looking at myself.
Right. It's the most natural assumption in the world.
Exactly. You just go about your day, making choices, picking your career, choosing your friends. You get angry, you fall in love, and you do all of this while assuming there is just one hand on the steering wheel of your life.
Just one you running the whole show.
Yeah. And this is why we're doing this deep dive today, that assumption is a complete and total illusion. According to the source material we're looking at today, you are actually a battleground for 7 distinct egos, or Nafs, and they are all relentlessly fighting for control over you.
It is, honestly, a genuinely startling realization when you first encounter it. I mean, we
Yeah.
are just so fiercely attached to the idea of a singular, solid identity.
Oh, absolutely.
But the framework we are exploring today, it completely shatters that comforting notion.
It really does. And the mission of this deep dive is to show you that right now, as you tune in to listen to this, one of these 7 egos is actively dominating your life.
Dictating literally everything.
Right. It's dictating your choices, coloring your entire worldview. It is literally choosing your fears for you. And for the vast majority of us, well, it's doing all of this without us even realizing it. We're completely blind to the dictator in our own minds.
We really are. And to guide us through this, we are looking at the foundational work of Ibn Arabi. He's this incredible historical figure who spent decades mapping human consciousness.
Yeah, the sources describe him in such an interesting way.
Yeah, he essentially approached the human mind with the microscopic precision of a behavioral scientist, but he combined it with this boundless, overarching vision of a Sufi mystic mapping the human soul.
Which is such a rare combo.
It really is. And I mean, this isn't just airy theory. It is a highly practical, step-by-step roadmap of the human condition.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if I'm currently a battleground, I really need to know exactly who is fighting, what the rules of engagement are, and, why this actually matters to the person listening right now. What are the actual stakes here?
Well, the stakes are essentially your entire experience of reality. I mean, most people live and die entirely within stages 1 or 2 of this map.
Just stuck there their whole lives.
Entirely stuck.
Yeah.
They go from birth to the grave, never even knowing that higher, more liberated states of existence are even possible.
Wow.
Yeah. They think the anxiety, the reactivity, the constant struggle they are in is just, well, what life is.
Just the human condition.
Exactly. And a few might touch the middle stages and mistakenly think they've reached the absolute pinnacle of enlightenment. But very, very few ever reach stage 7.
And what's stage 7 like?
It's a state of being where the very concept of an I, like a separate defensive ego, it becomes almost a joke. The promise of this roadmap is that once you understand it, you won't be able to unsee it. Every single moment of your life becomes a conscious choice to either stay stuck where you are or to rise higher.
I love that. The idea that our daily frustrations are actually just diagnostic tools showing us which level we're trapped on.
That's exactly how you have to look at it.
So let's start at the absolute bottom, the default state of almost every human being on Earth. The first stage, which the sources call the Nafs Amara, the commanding self.
That's right, the Nafs Samara. The term originates from a Quranic reference to the self that literally commands to evil, or commands to base desires.
But the sources are quick to clarify that, right? Like not cartoonish evil.
Right, exactly. We need to strip away any cartoonish, villainous connotations of the word evil here. We aren't just talking about serial killers or comic book villains.
Good, because that would let most of us off the hook too easily.
Totally. We should think of this stage as the ultimate biological autopilot. It is a tyrant, but it's a very mundane one.
Autopilot,
Yeah.
right. So if I'm operating out of this commanding self, what does my programming actually look like day to day?
The programming is a very simple, relentless binary code. You seek pleasure, you avoid pain, you dominate others to ensure your own survival, and this is key. You protect your ego at absolutely all costs.
So it's just pure reaction.
Pure reaction. When this specific ego is in charge, you have zero capacity to interrupt your own desires. If a craving arises, you just have to consume.
You're just a passenger.
Right. If an impulse hits you, you must act on it. You are essentially a highly complex animal running entirely on instinct.
But without the innocence of an animal.
Exactly, because you possess a human intellect. And at stage 1, you use that brilliant intellect solely to rationalize and justify your selfish instincts.
So the intellect is basically just a PR firm for the ego.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
It just takes whatever the animal body wants to do and spins it into a logical sounding argument.
Right, it tells you why you deserve to yell at that guy in traffic, or why it's actually totally fine to eat the whole cake.
And this leads to something really fascinating in the sources about the morality of the stage. It's entirely transactional.
Yes, highly transactional.
Because, like, people in stage one aren't necessarily criminals lurking in alleyways. They can be highly successful CEOs. They can be pillars of the community. They can even appear to be extremely religious, right?
Yeah, that is a crucial psychological distinction Ibn Arabi makes. Someone operating from the commanding self can look perfectly respectable, even admirable on the outside.
They might be giving millions to charity.
Sure, they might attend every religious service, be incredibly polite to their neighbors, but if you look at the mechanism driving those actions, their morality is 100% externalized,
Driven by what exactly?
driven exclusively by the fear of punishment or the desire for a reward.
So if they tell the truth, it's only because they are terrified of the social or financial consequences of being caught in a lie.
Exactly. The moment you guarantee them that they can get away with a deception that benefits them and that no one will ever know, all their supposed morality just vanishes.
Wow, so they'll just take the money.
They will take the money, they will lie, because the internal compass doesn't actually exist.
It's like treating ethics or religion like a business contract. Like,
Yeah.
I do this good deed, God owes me a spot in heaven.
Yes.
Or I donate to this hospital wing, society owes me a good reputation and tax breaks.
Right. There is no internal transformation happening at all.
No true love of the divine or genuine empathy for humanity.
None. It is purely behavioral modification driven by the most basic fear and reward mechanisms. It's almost mathematical.
It really is mathematical, and that is why it is so dangerous. I mean, if you think about it, because a society built entirely on stage one morality is incredibly fragile.
Oh, it's a house of cards.
It only holds together as long as the external systems of reward and punishment are perfectly maintained.
Exactly. The second the power goes out or the financial system collapses, the polite facade drops, and the underlying programming, dominate and survive, just takes over completely.
Okay, but let me push back on this biological algorithm analogy for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
Because this sounds like you're describing an advanced flesh and blood puppet. But if I'm in this state, I don't feel like a puppet. I feel like I have free will, you know?
Right.
When I'm in stage one, I certainly think I'm making independent, conscious choices to pursue a career, or buy a car, or yell at someone in traffic.
And that, right there, gets to the ultimate tragedy of stage one. It's the complete and utter lack of self-awareness.
They just don't see it.
The person in this stage genuinely believes that their desires are their actual voice.
Yeah.
They don't see a craving, whether it's for food or status or revenge, as a biological or social event happening to them.
They think, I am the craving. I want this.
Exactly. They are entirely merged with the ego.
So they can't observe the puppet strings because they believe they are the strings?
Precisely. If someone throws an insult at them, it triggers an immediate, unthinking explosion of anger. And the person in stage one thinks that anger is a justified, freely chosen response.
They don't realize they were just triggered.
Right. They have absolutely no distance from the emotion. They don't realize that a button was pushed and a predictable program just ran. They think they are the author of the program.
Man, so it's a prison where the inmates don't even know they're in prison?
They think the prison walls are just the natural edges of the universe.
Which begs the question, if you don't know you're in a prison, how do you ever break out? You can't just gently learn your way out of this, right?
No, you really can't.
Like reading a self-help book or listening to a deep dive isn't going to magically pull you out of stage one.
It absolutely won't. Because if you give a self-help book to a stage one ego, it will just read it and use the information to become a more effective, more manipulative tyrant.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It will use, mindfulness techniques to become a more ruthlessly efficient CEO. You cannot outthink the commanding self because it controls the thoughts.
So how does the transition actually happen?
It requires a shock, a massive structural shock to the system.
Like what kind of shock?
It usually comes in the form of a major crisis, a profound loss, a devastating illness, or a moment of deep, undeniable failure where all those external systems of reward and punishment just suddenly collapse.
Like hitting rock bottom.
Exactly. It requires something so deeply jarring that it shatters the illusion of control. It forces the person to have a momentary, often horrifying glimpse of their true mechanical nature.
They have to see the puppet strings for the very first time. They have to see that they aren't actually driving the car.
Yes. And once they see those strings, they can never unsee them. That horrifying glimpse pushes them out of the blissful ignorance of stage 1 and hurls them into the next phase.
Which brings us to stage 2.
Right. Stage 2, which Ibn Arabi calls the nafs, or the blaming self. The blaming self. And man, just reading the sources on this stage, it sounds absolutely exhausting. It sounds like a miserable place to be.
Oh, it is the definition of spiritual and psychological exhaustion. This is the stage of awakening, but, and this is important, it is not the peaceful lotus flower awakening that we see in pop culture.
Right. It's not all zen and green juice.
No, it is brutal. The term refers to the self that constantly blames, critiques, and reproaches itself. What has happened here is that the person has finally gained the ability to observe their own machinery.
Right. They aren't just blindly reacting anymore. There's a split in their consciousness.
Exactly. A vicious internal tug-of-war begins. One part of the person, the old, deeply ingrained programming of the commanding self, still desperately wants to chase those selfish desires.
It still wants what it wants.
Right. It still wants to lash out in anger, still wants to indulge in bad habits, still wants to dominate. But now there is a newly awakened part of their consciousness that can actually see these desires clearly, and it strongly, violently condemns them.
So it's literally a civil war inside the mind. A total civil war.
The source material details this agonizing, repetitive cycle that I think almost everyone listening can relate to on some visceral level.
No, for sure.
It goes like this. You commit the action, you know you shouldn't, you yell at your kids, you engage in the bad habit, you lie.
Right.
Then, because you are awake now and can see what you did, you feel genuine, crushing regret. You repent. You swear to yourself, I am never going to do that again. I am turning over a new leaf.
We've all been there.
Right. So you implement a temporary fix. You read a book, you start a new routine, and then, inevitably, a week or a month later, you relapse. And that relapse plunges you into an even deeper, darker pit of guilt and self-loathing.
It is a terrible loop. And the tragic observation the sources make here is that most well-meaning moral and religious people are permanently stuck right here.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. They spend their entire lives engaged in this exact civil war, thinking that this struggle is the spiritual path.
The source gives such sharp, uncomfortable examples of this.
It really does.
Like, it's the person who fasts with absolute purity and intense devotion all throughout a holy month, feeling incredibly pious and close to God. And then the very next day, they are viciously gossiping about their neighbor to ruin their reputation.
Right, exactly.
Or it's the person who weeps with genuine, authentic emotion during a beautiful prayer service, feeling totally transformed, and then lies to a customer at their business the next morning to make an extra buck.
And we have to be clear here, they aren't faking it.
Really, it feels so hypocritical.
It does, but when they are weeping in prayer, those tears are real. When they are lying to the customer, the greed is real. They aren't some mastermind sociopath maliciously deceiving everyone.
Right, they're not planning it out.
No, they are simply a fractured psyche. They are completely torn in half by these two opposing forces.
Oh, wait, let me push back on this because here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, what's your thought?
Isn't feeling guilty a sign that you're fundamentally a good person? I mean, society tells us that if you feel bad about doing something wrong, your moral compass is working.
Sure, guilt is like the cornerstone of a civilized society. Without it, we'd all just be acting on stage 1 impulses. So why is this framework saying that stage 2, this blaming self, is actually a massive trap? What's fascinating here is that we have to look beneath the surface, because the underlying psychology of self-blame is incredibly deceptive.
How so?
Ibn Arabi points out that this guilt, this constant internal warfare, actually becomes a very comfortable identity for the ego.
Comfortable. Guilt is comfortable.
Subconsciously, yes. The person becomes addicted to the cycle of failing, feeling terrible, and repenting because it provides them with a kind of spiritual drama.
Spiritual drama?
Yeah.
That is such a fascinating term. Break down how that actually works in the mind.
Well, think about why we watch movies.
For the plot, the conflict.
Exactly. A movie is only interesting if there is conflict. If the hero is just sitting in a chair perfectly happy for 2 hours, you walk out of the theater.
Fair enough.
In stage 2, the ego basically co-opts the spiritual journey and turns it into a movie where the person gets to cast themselves as the tragic, struggling hero.
Oh, wow.
The narrative becomes, I am a deeply flawed sinner. I am battling my terrible demons. I fall down, but look how beautiful and tragic it is that I keep trying to get back up.
So it's a performance.
It is.
Yeah.
The psychological reality is that this heavy energy of self-condemnation is just a highly refined, sneaky way for the ego to stay entirely obsessed with itself.
Let me make sure I'm getting this. By beating myself up, by agonizing over my flaws and my guilt, I am still 100% focused on myself.
Absolutely.
So the guilt is just vanity in a different outfit. It's a very stealthy narcissism.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Think about it when you're endlessly flagellating yourself for your mistakes. Who is the subject of every single thought?
I failed. I am terrible. I need to do better.
Right. The ego doesn't actually care if the attention is positive or negative, as long as it remains the absolute center of the universe.
That makes so much sense.
And without this familiar, comfortable pattern of failing, feeling guilty, and making grand promises to do better, the person wouldn't know who they are anymore. Their entire identity is wrapped up in being the struggler.
So subconsciously, they are actually terrified of succeeding.
Terrified of
They
it.
are terrified of actually overcoming the flaw because then the movie ends, the conflict resolves, the credits roll, and then what? Who are they without the battle?
That is exactly it. The guilt is just a disguise the ego wears to stay in power. It uses your own desire to be good to maintain its own existence.
That completely flips how we usually think about morality.
It really does.
So how on earth do you escape stage 2? Because if fighting the bad habits and generating guilt is exactly what keeps you trapped in the drama, what do? You can't just give up and go back to stage 1.
Definitely not.
But you can't fight your way out either.
No, you have to realize the ultimate paradox of this stage. You cannot fight the ego to escape the ego.
Because fighting means you're still in the game.
Right. Fighting implies that you are still identified as a combatant on the battlefield. As long as you are fighting, the war just continues.
What's the move?
To cross over into stage 3, you must take a profound step back in your own consciousness. You must realize that both the base desire arising within you, the urge to lash out, and the internal voice harshly condemning that desire belong to the exact same ego.
They are two hands of the same entity clapping together to make noise.
Yes, perfect analogy.
The ego is playing both the villain and the righteous judge.
Precisely. So to escape, you have to stop taking a side in the civil war. You must become the silent witnessing consciousness.
Just observing it.
Yes, you watch the angry desire arise, you watch the guilty voice arise to attack it, and you realize you are neither of them. You are the open space of awareness in which both of those thoughts are simply happening.
And when you step back and become that silent witness, the framework says the inner civil war finally starts to go quiet.
It runs out of fuel.
The shouting match stops because the ego realizes you are no longer playing its game. You aren't feeding it energy anymore.
Exactly.
And that profound silence makes room for a completely new, deeper voice to emerge. Which brings us to stage 3, the Nafs Mulima, or the inspired self.
This is a beautiful, deeply transformative turning point, the inspired self. The defining characteristic of this stage is the creation of a gap.
A gap.
Yes. In the previous stages, an impulse meant immediate action, or at best, an immediate agonizing wrestling match. But in stage 3, desires still arise. You still feel anger, you still feel lust, you still feel fear, but they no longer hijack the steering wheel of your consciousness.
So there is a pause, a gap between feeling the impulse and acting on it.
Right?
It reminds me of Viktor Frankl, who talked about this, how between stimulus and response there is a space, and in that space is our power to choose.
Yes, that's a perfect parallel. And how the person handles those desires in that space completely changes. Instead of violently suppressing a craving, which we just learned, feeds the spiritual drama, the person in stage 3 investigates the craving with non-judgmental curiosity.
Okay. Let's use a practical everyday example to illustrate this because I think this is super applicable for the listener.
Let's do it.
Let's say you have a sudden, intense compulsion to pull out your phone and just blindly scroll social media, or to eat a bunch of junk food when you know you aren't actually hungry.
Okay, very common.
In stage 1, you just do it.
Right, autopilot.
In stage 2, you fight it, you eventually give in anyway, and then you hate yourself for an hour.
The guilt loop.
But in stage 3, you pause in that gap. You look at the craving and ask, what is actually happening here? Am I hungry, or am I feeling lonely or stressed or anxious about an email? And I'm just trying to use this food or this phone as an anesthetic to numb a deeper emotional void.
Exactly. And what happens when you do that? When you shine the light of pure, non-judgmental awareness on the desire, it often just naturally melts away.
Really? Just from looking at it?
Yeah, it loses its power because you've exposed the trick. The craving was never actually about the junk food or the phone. It was a misdirected attempt to soothe the deeper pain.
It's like turning on the lights in a dark room. You thought there was a monster in the corner and you were terrified of it. But when you turn on the light, you see it's just a pile of laundry.
That's a great way to look at it.
You don't have to fight the laundry, the shadow just vanishes.
That's exactly it. And as this internal noise quiets down, as the constant buzzing of guilt and craving subsides, something incredible happens.
What's that?
There is an emergence of true intuition and synchronicity.
Okay, intuition.
The mind starts to connect to a deeper source of knowledge that entirely bypasses normal step-by-step logic. The conditioned, rational, anxious brain takes a backseat to a much deeper, resonant knowing.
The roadmap points to some fascinating examples of this.
It does.
Imagine you are about to sign a major business deal. Your lawyers have looked at it, the spreadsheets all project huge profits, the logic is totally sound, and everyone around you is telling you to sign.
Everything looks perfect on paper.
Right. But you feel this sudden, completely illogical yet incredibly clear physical sensation in your chest, a heavy no.
Just a gut feeling.
You can't explain it rationally, but you trust it. You back out of the deal. And a week later, you discover the whole thing was an elaborate scam that would have completely bankrupted you.
Or consider the example of just walking down a busy city street. You suddenly feel inexplicably drawn to stop and talk to a random stranger. And it turns out they desperately needed exactly the help or the specific piece of information that you happen to have in that exact moment.
Like the universe is just lining things up.
In stage 3, you stop fighting reality and start flowing with it.
I love the metaphor I was thinking of for this transition. It's like you've spent your whole life stuck running around in chaotic, honking, dangerous traffic.
Right.
You were getting hit by cars, you were screaming at other drivers, you were constantly terrified. That is stage 1 and 2.
Exactly.
But stage 3 is like you finally found a staircase and climbed up to a pedestrian overpass. You are looking down at the traffic, the cars, which are your desires, your fears, the chaos of the world. They are still there. You still see them. You can smell the exhaust.
But you aren't getting run over by them anymore.
Exactly. You aren't forced to jump into the red sports car of anger just because it drives by. The universe starts reorganizing itself around your true, deeper needs rather than your forced, ego-driven anxieties.
That is a brilliant visualization of the gap. You are standing above the fray, observing it. However, this raises a critically important question. Ibn Arabi issues a very stark, very severe warning about stage 3. It contains a massive pitfall.
Right, because it feels so incredibly good to finally be out of that traffic, to have peace and intuition that you just want to set up camp on the overpass forever.
Exactly. The danger is spiritual pride. Life is suddenly flowing for you. Your intuition is razor sharp. You are experiencing these amazing synchronicities. The painful, crushing guilt of stage 2 is gone. It is a wonderfully comfortable place to be.
Sounds great to me.
And because it's so comfortable, seekers very often stop here. They start to secretly, or sometimes not so secretly, think they are better, more evolved, or more enlightened than all the poor, asleep masses still struggling in the traffic below.
They build a little toll booth on the overpass and start charging admission to give people advice on how to live.
Exactly.
It's the birth of the modern spiritual ego, like the person who goes to a meditation retreat, drinks green juice, and then subtly looks down on everyone who still eats fast food and gets angry.
Precisely. They use their newfound peace and intuition to feed a much more subtle, much more refined, and therefore much more dangerous version of their ego.
Because they don't even realize it's their ego anymore.
Right. They avoid moving forward because the stages beyond this require something truly terrifying, the complete death of the ego.
They want to keep the perks.
They want the gifts of intuition, the cool synchronicities, and the peaceful feelings, but they absolutely do not want to surrender their identity as the special, enlightened person who possesses those gifts.
So it's a trap made of gold.
A trap made of gold.
To keep moving, you have to let go of the pride of being spiritual. You have to realize that you aren't actually better than the person in the traffic. You just found the stairs.
That's the only way out.
And if a seeker can actually manage to drop that pride, the framework says they cross over into the first stage that is explicitly, fundamentally praised in the sources as being truly aligned. Stage 4, the Nafs Mutmainah, or the peaceful self.
The satisfied self.
The peaceful self. And we must be exceptionally careful with how we define peace here.
Because it's not what we usually think of as peace.
Right. It is not the fragile, forced peace of someone who has successfully suppressed all their bad desires. It is not someone biting their tongue and forcing a smile.
So what is it?
It is the unshakable structural piece of total absolute alignment. The text describes this as the complete end of the duality between duty and desire. Can you break down what that actually means in a practical sense?
Think about it like this in the lower stages. Even when you are doing the right thing, there is internal friction.
Like a resistance.
Right. You know you should be patient with your child, so you grit your teeth, you swallow your annoyance, and you force yourself to speak calmly. You know you should be generous to a friend in need, so you write the check, but a small part of you resents losing the money and wishes they hadn't asked.
Duty is pulling you toward the good action, but your underlying desire is still pulling you toward selfishness.
Exactly.
But in stage 4, that internal friction is just gone.
Completely gone. The person in stage 4 no longer have to convince or force themselves to be patient. Patience has simply become their natural, effortless response to delay.
Wow.
They don't have to wrestle with their conscience to be generous. Generosity flows from them as naturally and inevitably as water flowing downhill.
So what they want to do and what is the objectively right thing to do have become the exact same thing.
Yes.
The roadmap calls this the death of the reactive self. And I found the mechanics of this absolutely fascinating.
It's a huge shift.
Because in the lower stages, life pushes you and your ego immediately pushes back. Life insults you, you insult it back to protect your status. Life takes something from you, you panic and try to grab it back.
Constant reaction.
But here, things just happen, and the person responds from a deep, immovable, calm center.
Let's use the example of someone hurling a vicious, deeply personal insult at a person in stage 4.
Okay.
If you insult a person in stage 1, they punch you.
Right.
In stage 2, they bite their tongue so they don't punch you, but they seethe with inner rage and judge you harshly in their mind.
The Civil War.
In stage 3, they observe their own anger arising, and they use their mindfulness tools to let it go.
They use the gab.
But in stage 4, the insult lands, and no anger is generated at all.
How is that even possible, like biologically?
Because they no longer have a fragile ego that needs defending. They don't see the insult as a threat.
What do they see it as?
They see the insult purely as a symptom of the attacker's own pain and confusion. There is just a clear, compassionate understanding of the situation and a masterful, entirely unemotional handling of the interaction.
Or consider how they handle a crisis, like losing a large sum of money or getting fired.
Right.
There's no panic. There's no late-night, heart-pounding anxiety. There is just a clear-eyed assessment of the new reality and immediate practical forward steps.
Exactly.
You can always recognize these people in real life if you are lucky enough to cross paths with one. They don't create storms. They absorb the chaos around them and neutralize it.
They are anchors.
They really are. They don't have to preach at you or give you unsolicited advice. Their mere physical presence in a room makes everyone else's nervous system relax. They radiate a very literal, palpable alignment.
They absolutely do. It's a profound state of human development. But Ibn Arabi, maintaining his microscopic precision, clarifies a crucial philosophical point right here.
What's that?
We are only at stage 4. As pure, beautiful, and peaceful as this soul is, an I still exists.
Wait, there is still an ego, even at this level of peace.
Yes, though it is highly refined and entirely transparent. The person in stage 4 can still formulate the thought, I am at peace.
Okay.
There's still a subject, the I, experiencing an object, the peace. There's still a subtle boundary, a thin veil between them and the rest of the universe.
They're still a distinct individual.
They have achieved the absolute perfection of the individual personality, but they are still fundamentally an individual person. The stages that follow require even this beautiful, perfectly peaceful I to be completely and totally dissolved.
Which brings us to the stages where things get incredibly profound and, frankly, a bit challenging to wrap our normal, rational minds around.
It gets deep here.
Yeah. We are grouping stages 5 and 6 together because, as Ibn Arabi notes, they're essentially two sides of the same coin, the complete dissolution of duality.
Right.
This is stage 5, the Nafs Radiya, the pleased self, and stage 6, the Nafs Mardiya, the pleasing self.
Let's start with stage 5, the pleased self. To move beyond the personal peace of stage 4, the soul must lose all preference for its own will.
All preference.
Yes. It must blend entirely into the divine will or the objective flow of reality. The hallmark of stage 5 is total, active agreement with whatever happens.
And the framework is very specific here. It's not just passive acceptance. It's not just a stoic sigh saying, oh, well, it is what it is. I guess I'll deal with it.
No, not at all.
It is genuine, profound gratitude for everything, even devastating, world-shattering news. The text explicitly mentions things like receiving a terminal illness diagnosis or facing complete financial ruin.
Yes.
Now, let me stop you right here because I have to play devil's advocate.
These two.
Thanking the universe for cancer, being genuinely grateful for losing your home in a fire. How is that not just a massive psychological delusion?
It's a fair question.
How is that not engaging in what modern psychology calls toxic positivity or spiritual bypassing, where you just paste a fake, terrifying smile over deep trauma and refuse to deal with reality?
That is exactly the pushback any healthy modern mind should have when encountering this concept.
Yeah.
But Ibn Arabi's framework anticipates this and makes a vital, deeply nuanced distinction.
Okay, what's the distinction?
There is absolutely no fake stoicism happening in stage 5. It is not toxic positivity. A person in stage 5 who receives a cancer diagnosis still feels the intense physical pain of the illness.
Right.
If their house burns down or they lose a loved one, they still feel the acute, crushing grief and sadness of that loss. Human emotions do not miraculously vanish. They are not robots.
So they still cry. They still feel the heartbreak.
They weep openly. But the metaphor used to explain this is brilliant. Think of consciousness as the sky and emotions as the weather.
The sky and the weather. I like that.
Beneath the passing, tumultuous weather of grief, pain, or sadness, the sky remains completely clear, vast, and unshakable. They do not resist the reality of the moment. They don't fight the weather.
They just let it happen.
They actually see this severe hardship as a more valuable, more targeted gift than a life of ease, because they possess the profound recognition that this specific hardship is exactly what is required for the ultimate acceleration of their spiritual evolution.
So the emotions are just weather passing through, but their core identity is the sky itself.
Yes.
They don't scream at the universe, "Why is this happening to me?" They quietly ask, "What is this revealing for me?"
Precisely. The text says their heart becomes like pure gold.
Gold. Why gold?
Gold is a unique element because it is infinitely flexible. It can be pounded, heated, melted, and molded into absolutely any shape without ever breaking or losing a single atom of its intrinsic value.
That's a beautiful image.
Reality can mold their life into a shape of terrible tragedy or a shape of glorious triumph, and they accept both shapes with the exact same level of profound gratitude because they know it's all just gold.
And that perfect unconditional acceptance flips the coin to stage 6, the pleasing self. If stage 5 is being entirely pleased with whatever reality gives you, stage 6 is reality being entirely pleased with you.
In stage 6, the person becomes a pure instrument. The phrase often used is the hands of God.
Because they have no agenda anymore.
Exactly. Because they have completely surrendered their personal preferences in stage 5, they now have zero personal agenda. They aren't trying to achieve anything for themselves anymore, not even spiritual brownie points.
They aren't trying to be holy.
Right.
The observation here is that existence itself becomes their worship. It's as natural and effortless as a tree bearing fruit. A tree isn't agonizing over its purpose or trying to grow apples to impress the farmer.
Yeah.
It just grows apples because that is its fundamental nature.
And this brings us to a really fascinating sociological point within this framework, the concept of the Abdal, or the hidden saint.
Saints.
These highly evolved beings don't usually seek the spotlight. They don't start massive cults. They don't demand followers, and they don't wear elaborate identifying robes to show everyone how spiritual they are.
They aren't on social media bragging about it.
No. They're often completely camouflaged in ordinary, mundane life.
The roadmap suggests they might be an ordinary shopkeeper running a bodega, or a mother simply raising her kids, or the guy fixing your plumbing.
Exactly. But because they are pure, unobstructed instruments, a kind of divine mercy or healing energy flows right through them into the world without any friction.
So they just affect people effortlessly.
They might just smile at a customer who is having a terrible day or give a tiny offhand piece of advice to a friend, and it profoundly heals or resolves a massive issue in that person's life.
Wow.
And the great beautiful paradox of stage 6 is this. They have completely stopped trying to please God, and yet God is entirely pleased with them.
Because the duality is finally gone.
It's gone.
There is no longer a trier down here on Earth desperately trying to impress a judger up in the sky. The distance between the two has collapsed.
Exactly. The separation has vanished.
Oh.
The instrument and the musician are moving as one single entity.
Which brings us to the absolute summit, the end of the map, and as the text eloquently puts it, the beginning of the mystery. Stage 7.
The Nafs, Camilla.
The perfect or complete self. If the duality of the trier and the judger is fully gone, if the ego is totally dissolved, what on earth is left? How do you even describe a human being at this stage?
What is left defies all human categories of language. In the perfect self, the I has become entirely transparent.
Transparent.
The framework uses beautiful, poetic contradictions to try and describe this state because logic just fails.
Yep.
They are described as a wave that fully consciously knows it is the entire ocean.
Okay, a wave that knows it's the ocean.
Or they are a single ray of light that fully knows it is the sun.
They defy all our normal dualistic categories, right? Like if you ask someone to observe them and say, are they an active person or a passive person? Are they humble or are they confident? Are they joyful or sorrowful?
You can't answer it.
The answer is that they are all of those things simultaneously and none of them.
They are completely fluid and formless, responding absolutely perfectly to whatever the exact microsecond requires in front of them, without leaving any footprint or residue of an ego behind.
And this is where we inevitably encounter the mention of miracles. But, and the sources are clear on this, it's vital. We understand how this specific roadmap defines a miracle.
Yes. It isn't magic.
Right. It isn't a wizard waving a wand to break the laws of physics or manipulate reality.
Right. It's not a fantasy novel. They aren't shooting lightning from their hands.
Yeah.
It is reality naturally responding to a consciousness that is completely 100% aligned with its source.
Because they aren't separate.
Because the person in stage 7 is not separate from the flow of reality. They can read the incredibly subtle signs of what is already meant to happen, and their consciousness simply acts as the clear conduit to manifest it into the physical world.
They aren't forcing the universe to bend to their will.
No, their will is the universe's will. There is no friction.
So what does this actually mean for how they live day to day? Because I found this to be the most fascinating, grounding observation in the entire framework.
It's very grounding.
We build up this grand, complex map. We talk about the dissolution of duality, miracles, and being the ocean. But the ultimate hallmark of a stage 7 being isn't that they glow in the dark or float 3 feet off the ground or speak entirely in cryptic Zen riddles.
No, not at all. That is a massive misconception of enlightenment.
The ultimate hallmark is absolute, utter simplicity.
Yes.
When they are hungry, they eat. When they are tired, they sleep, they chop wood, and they carry water.
They aren't trying to be enlightened anymore.
They aren't holding on to any special spiritual posture or trying to maintain a Zen expression on their face. They are just entirely, thoroughly human.
That is the ultimate realization. And Ibn Arabi explicitly warns that stage 7 cannot be achieved by effort.
Because effort fundamentally requires an ego.
Exactly. Effort implies that there is a goal in the future, and there is a deficient you who is currently lacking, who needs to strive, sweat, and work to reach that goal.
But stage 7 is what happens when all of that just drops.
Stage 7 is simply what is left over when all trying, all seeking, all striving, and all becoming completely stops. It cannot be earned through merit. It happens entirely by grace.
By grace.
It is the sudden, profound realization that you were always already home. You were just caught in a complicated dream that you were on a journey.
That is incredible. The journey was just the process of exhausting the ego until it finally gave up.
Yes.
But as beautiful as the summit is, we need to bring this back down to the immediate reality of the listener. If you are sitting in your car doing the dishes right now, we made a promise in the intro that we would help you locate exactly where you are on this map.
Yes. Ibn Arabi was not just a theoretician. He was deeply practical. He provided a diagnostic map.
Let's do it.
4 specific probing questions you can ask yourself right now. See which of these egos is currently running your life. And listeners, as we talk through these, try to bypass your ego's desire to give the right answer.
Sure.
And just be brutally honest with yourself.
Okay, let's walk through these tests. Test number 1. What is your actual core motive for worship or just for doing good deeds in general?
Okay, so if you are only doing good out of a fear of punishment, whether that's hell or just being canceled on social media or a desire for a reward, you are operating in stage 1.
Got it.
If your goodness is driven by a constant heavy guilt over your past failures and you are trying to make up for them, you are in stage 2.
The guilt trip.
If your goodness comes from a mix of genuine love and conscious, mindful discipline, you are in stage 3.
Okay.
If being good is just your natural, effortless inclination and you don't even have to think about it, you are in stage 4.
Yeah, and if every single breath and mundane action of your life, including washing the dishes, feels like an act of devotion, you are in stage 5 or beyond.
That is a great way to gauge it. Test number 2 looks at friction. What is your automatic reaction to hardship?
Okay, hardship.
If you lash out in anger, look for someone to blame, or completely break down, you are in stages 1 or 2.
Right.
If you force yourself to be patient, but you secretly still hold a grudge against reality for treating you unfairly, you are in stage 3.
The forced patience.
If you meet the hardship with a deep, unshakable, practical calm, you are in stage 4.
Calm.
If you meet it with active, genuine gratitude because you see its hidden value, you are in stage 5.
The gold.
And if you literally can no longer distinguish between a hardship and a blessing because you see both as perfect gifts from reality,
Yeah.
you are touching stages 6 and 7.
Wow. Okay, test number 3. What is your relationship to your desires?
If your cravings completely control you and you act on impulse, stage 1.
Right.
If you are locked in a constant, violent, exhausting war with them, stage 2.
The Civil War.
If you have found the gap and can observe them without automatically acting on them, stage 3.
The gap.
If your desires have been fundamentally purified, so you only naturally want what is good for you, stage 4.
And if the very distinction between what you want and what the universe wants has vanished, stage 5 and above?
And finally, test number 4. What is the nature of your thoughts about yourself?
Your internal monologue.
Right. If you are constantly obsessing over your own image, your needs, your anxieties, your spiritual progress, and your failures, you are firmly in the lower stages.
Because it's all me, me, me.
Exactly. If your thoughts of yourself have drastically reduced in volume, and you are effortlessly immersed in serving others without thinking about what you get out of it, you are in stages 4 or 5.
Okay.
And if the very sense of being a separate self only rarely appears, and when it does, it feels completely transparent and weightless, you are nearing the summit.
Now, there is a highly relatable caveat from the framework that we have to mention before we close.
Absolutely.
Because human consciousness is incredibly messy. This map isn't a linear video game where you beat level 2, save your progress, and never go back.
No, human consciousness is much more fragmented than that. We are a mosaic.
We really are.
You might be operating at a highly evolved stage 4 in your private spiritual practices, meditating peacefully in your room. But the moment you get into a tense business dispute at work, your survival instincts kick in, and you plummet straight back to a reactive stage 1.
Instantly.
Or you might be wonderfully patient with strangers all day at stage 4, but the second your spouse pushes a specific emotional button, you immediately revert to the bitter, defensive warfare of stage 2.
It's so true. So the real work of this framework isn't just climbing the ladder once, it's bringing all those disparate, fragmented, triggered parts of your daily life up to the same high altitude.
That's the real work.
And as we wrap this up, I want to emphasize the ultimate summary of value here. This map is absolutely not a tool for judging other people or for beating yourself up.
Exactly. Someone operating at stage 1 isn't intrinsically bad or evil. They are just deeply, profoundly asleep. And someone at stage 7 isn't superior as a human being.
Yeah.
They're just fully awake. You cannot skip a grade in school.
You have to do the work.
You can't learn algebra until you learn addition. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, puts you in the exact situations you need to be in to learn the specific lesson of your current stage.
That brings us to the final, beautiful philosophical synthesis of this whole map. Ibn Arabi says these aren't actually 7 different, distinct souls locked inside you fighting a war.
No.
They are simply 7 degrees of forgetting and remembering who you truly are. Stage 1 is total amnesia. Stage 7 is total remembrance.
It is the journey from fragmentation back to absolute unity.
Which brings us back to where we started. You are a battleground right now. But the goal isn't to win the battle. The goal is to realize who is actually fighting.
That's the key.
So I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to mull over today as you go back to your life. The framework asks you to identify what is keeping you at your current stage. But I want to take that one step further. Just think about the one major recurring frustration in your life right now. The argument you keep having with your partner, the bad habit you just can't seem to break, the career anxiety that keeps you up at 3 a.m.
We all have one.
If you look incredibly closely at that specific frustration, which of the 7 egos is actually the one complaining about it?
That is a great question.
Is it the commanding ego angry that it isn't dominating the situation? Is it the blaming ego secretly addicted to the drama of failing again? When you find out exactly who inside you is doing the complaining, you just might find the exact door to your next level.